Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye. And guess what? Both Josh and Jenaye are here.
Yes, that's been the joke
today.
of the past couple episodes is Josh or Jenaye. We've been gone. One of us has, but then now it's both of us. It's just nice,
This is amazing,
nice to be
having
back.
both of you in the same
Great.
room.
It's so awesome.
The last one we did, Jenaye was sitting down to record and I was leaving to get on a flight. And I was like, tell people we're not fighting. That's not
It
why I told
actually
her.
has been so nice because you still get to record because it's both of us, so we can tag team. Yeah, Josh and Jenaye and a dear friend who's already been on the podcast before, but is back round 2.
That makes you extra special.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, you
thank
already knew you were special. But Steve Pavek, all the way here from Alaska. And we're right in the midst of our Legacy Makers banquets now. And so Steve is our special guest. And so we thought we'd fit in a podcast while he's here.
Yeah. We were just talking that we've been friends for, would you say 17 years?
17 years. Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. That's
So
actually almost half of my life.
long.
Josh.
Oh, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that in marriage. Like we just only celebrated 10 years. But I was like, there's going to reach a point where I would have spent most of my life with Josh then away from him, which isn't that fun. How many years have you and Aaron been married?
11 years. Yeah,
Okay, yes, because we were dating. We went to your wedding.
Yeah.
Remembering this now.
Yep. And your guys, I think
engaged.
your guys' wedding was like one of the last things we did in North Dakota before moving to Alaska.
Before you moved.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. All
It's
right.
very cool.
I can ask us the question from the
Okay.
bowl. It's a good one. I don't think we've done this before. Who was your favorite pet? Who has been your favorite pet?
Oh, wow. Well, I think I probably have to say Cade because he's alive right now. And if he's listening, I can't not
hurt his
say him,
feelings.
right? But more realistically, it'd be a dog named Spud. He was half
Spud.
Dalmatian, half lab.
Wow.
Interesting.
and
Did he have spots?
He did, yeah. He looked like a Dalmatian, but he had the demeanor of a lab.
That's
Interesting.
like the best of both worlds.
It was crazy. He was a great dog.
Spud.
Spud was fun. He was gentle. He used to lay on our porch. I grew up, first 4 years of my life, we grew up on a farm. He used to lay on the porch. And in the winter, the cats would come and lay on top of him. And we just had farm cats like everywhere. And there would just be a blanket of farm cats laying on top of Spud. And yeah, he's just a sweet dog.
That is awesome.
We had lots of adventures together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to not say our dog Charlie right now. He's definitely my bud. But my childhood dog, I had many. But Lucy was like my dog.
Yeah.
Just a little thing. One of those little lap dogs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Charlie would eat her. He's 60 pounds and ginormous.
He would gobble her up.
Have you met our dog that we got?
No.
Less than a year ago.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah. You were
know.
just about, like, you were in the process of
That's
getting
so
him.
funny.
But
Oh, yeah, because, the Josh and Avery came to see you.
Yeah.
Josh, yours is probably like a cow or something.
I did have a lot of cows that I loved, honestly, but I probably have to go with a dog too. We had a cattle dog named Katie.
I remember.
And she was little. I don't even know what she was. I thought she was like an Australian Shepherd / Border Collie. But she's very sweet, but she also helped get a lot of work done. So I just appreciated her.
Yeah.
And she lived to be like, my dogs lived a long time.
Weren't they wasn't she 18?
Yeah, like 18 or
What?
20.
Like, he had pretty much all
She-
your really meaningful animals were like 18 right when we started dating, and they like all passed away.
Yeah.
Like your dad's
Wow.
main horse that was 18 years old, your dog that
Yeah, it
was
was
18.
kind of a really sad couple
It was
years because
very
all my
sad.
childhood
Oh,
animals
yeah.
died like
And
in
then
this short
Duke.
little window. Yeah, Duke and Katie. Duke was a lab German Shepherd. He lived like 17 years, which is
Wow.
totally atypical for a big dog. But yeah, she was cattle dog to the end. She actually got killed because she was pretty much deaf
Yeah.
and pretty blind, and a cow ran her over, took her
Oh,
out
man.
because she didn't even see it coming.
I feel like those are the horror stories of the farm. Like I
It
did
is.
have a
I
dog
have so
pass
many
away
horror stories.
because he got under the tractor tire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I grew up on a farm that had airplanes. My dad's a spray pilot. And one of our dogs got hit by the propeller once. And he didn't die, but it like his chopped pretty much his ear off, and it was hanging on by like a
Oh my
thread
gosh.
and reattached and survived.
Wow.
I feel like North Dakota is one of the areas of the country where you could talk about these things in a podcast and not have to edit them out. You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's like, oh, that's not going to make it post edit, you know.
Yeah.
But this probably will, you know.
Yeah.
Probably will. Maybe some people feel queasy, but they'll get over it.
I can't even tell you how many cats I watched die and how many different ways I watched them die. And it was never on purpose. It was just casualties of living on the ranch
With like 20 cats.
with a lot of cats around.
A lot of cats.
Anyways, that's not why we're
was
here
fun.
today. That was fun.
To talk about
Sorry.
animals and pets.
Hey, listen, if you're like, I love animals, I hate this. I hated it too. I loved all the animals. And it was like, I had to grieve every time I lost one.
When we were debating getting a dog, Josh's counselor was like, this actually would probably be very good for you, for your family to get a dog, like for your mental health.
But I'm like, I don't want to get a dog because I don't want to lose my dog ever. Like, it's horrible.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, 100, that, if I did my math right, that your dog was 126 in dog years.
Yeah.
And then passed away. That's a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good full life.
It's a great
He saw
They-
things.
He just, anyways.
Maybe we'll tell more animal stories.
We
If we
could
have
do
time
life
for
on the-
any
life on the
Alaska
farm.
animal stories, I mean, I do know I think you told, I said, I know, but I think you told the orca story on the last time you were on.
Yeah.
And you were
probably.
via Zoom last time.
It's a great story.
Yeah,
It
it's
is a
one of
great
my
story.
favorites.
Okay, so we could talk about all sorts of things like that, but we're going to talk about a little bit about Alaska, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our origins. I'm trying to get there by the end of this podcast today. And then I'm dressed like this because we have a banquet tonight, and we're going to go do that as well. And Steve's going to help speak, and we're going to have a great weekend. So what many of you who are listening know is that Evangel is a partnership with what we've called Hub One, but really the bigger umbrella of Hub One is Alaska Student Partnership, or AKSP. And part of AKSP has been Hub One, this church in Bethel that we've sent like 70 people up to help work on and build and renovate, basically raised to the ground the middle of the building and then rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a missionary training center, a retreat for missionaries who are out in rural villages. And so, Steve, can you, just for anybody who doesn't know, talk about specifically what AKSP is and why it's important?
Yeah, so AKSP is really the focus of our whole ministry initiative is to train college alumni to go and plant churches in teams amongst the 100 villages in Alaska without a consistent gospel witness. And the reason it's called Alaska Student Partnership is because access to these villages really is only possible if you get a teaching job in one of these villages. And so AKSP interfaces and works with school districts to send them teachers. And in return, we are able to obviously send cross-culturally trained missionaries to live in villages and be able to make disciples and plant house churches. And really, our hope one day would be that our teachers would be able to leave and that the indigenous church would be able to stay there and flourish and multiply.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar with like village life in Alaska, it'd be really similar in some ways to what some have experienced maybe on reservations in North Dakota, but it's not even like that because it's way, way, way more isolated.
Yeah.
And just remote.
And remote, yeah. So there's no like, and culturally very different. Like, so there's no direct access to get to Anchorage, just run to Anchorage for the day, anything like that.
Wait, do most people not have cars because they don't need one? They need a snow machine or a four-wheeler?
Depends on the village, but yeah, you'd buy a boat far before you would ever buy a car.
Yeah.
And then, to get around the village, usually it's a four-wheeler or a snowmobile, as we call them in Alaska, snow machines.
Yes.
I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, to speak to that remoteness, I mean, most of our teachers right now are serving in what we would call second flight villages. So you would need to take a flight from Anchorage to a hub village and then get on either a smaller plane or a boat to get to that smaller second flight village. Wow. And when we talk about the 100 villages in Alaska without a consistent gospel witness, those are the villages we're referring to. And literally there's no, if I wanted to move to a village, there's absolutely no way for me to be able to move there because there's no housing. If there was housing that would become available, it would go to obviously the native peoples that would be living in those places. And so the only way in is teachers, because teachers are provided housing in order to be able to live in these places and teach. And it's so much fun when we flip the script. Our teachers start to flip the script on what it means to be a teacher in these places. And so everybody just comes, historically, they just come for a paycheck and they leave. And so teachers actually have a high turnover rate in these places. And so when our teachers on the ground, they not just go, but they stay for longer than a year, it kind of like opens people's ideas to like, what are you doing here for longer than a year? And then they'll stay over the summer. And we've had teachers who have been walked up to in the community. It's like May, school's been out for 3 weeks, and they've been asked, what are you still doing here? It's like, well, this is my home. And that mentality has opened doors for relationship and trust to be built. That trust is then obviously becomes the foundation for us to have the ability to preach the gospel to these people and allow them maybe to see a life lived out as a Christian for a lot of people for the first time. They've ever seen that.
Do you know how many villages are connected to Bethel?
There are 56 villages.
So Bethel, where the church is being built, Hub 1, is one of those hub villages that then goes to second flight communities. Is that what you call them?
Yep. So Bethel is probably the most strategic hub in our state in that it serves it hubs the most villages of any other hub village. And so it's got an incredible amount of traffic through it for people coming and receiving medical care, coming in for groceries and supplies and different things like that.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's exciting. And our church has partnered with it in a big way. There's going to be more reach streams going this year. Maybe there's somebody listening who, do you have to have a teaching degree?
You do not. No. So you have to be willing to teach, as we say. So, but anybody, our training program is 10 months long. And we really feel like that's a very necessary period of time to get people ready to live in these difficult places, but also to be able to understand, have a good basis of missiology, to understand how to contextualize the gospel in a way that's going to make sense, and then become replicatable by the Alaskan Native people. And so, and part of that 10-month training program is that if you have a bachelor's degree in anything, we can put you through an online teacher training program that'll allow you to then, at the end of our training program, pursue teacher licensure within the state of Alaska.
So if anybody's like, hey, I might be interested in doing this, I want to read more about it, where should they go?
They should go to whatihave.org. And What I Have is just our recruiting initiative. It's our recruiting arm of AKSP, challenging college students and college graduates from around the nation to use what they already have in their degree to come and help change the story in Alaska.
Right.
And we've had some nurses come. We've had some pilots come.
Wow.
And so there is some wiggle room a little bit on the teaching thing. But again, those jobs end up in hubs. And the greatest need is in our second flight villages.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Like that's the goal.
What else do you want to say about it before I pivot to a different discussion?
Oh, I guess I'd say this is that I love watching these young people, and we've had older people come too. So if you're listening and you're older,
Right.
I mean, we would love more seasoned life veterans, right? But I just love watching people step into something that's going to be incredibly challenging, incredibly hard. And you can literally, as they go through their training program and they go through their first round of culture shock through moving to Alaska, and then they move out to a village and they go through their second round of culture shock and their third round of culture shock. And you just see them weighing and counting the costs of what this means to follow Jesus in a difficult place. And when they come out on the other side of that, having known and considered Jesus worth it, it's just an amazing thing.
Wow.
And so I tell our teachers who are living in these places all the time that they are my heroes, and I really do mean it, because they have had to sacrifice a lot of comfort and a lot of comfort and a lot of ease to be able to say yes to Jesus in these places.
Right.
And what we found is we have a saying that we use within our ministry. We just say that Alaska's been over evangelized and under discipled, because people are willing to come for and do a week long thing here or there, and all these villages have that type of influence readily and consistently coming through them. But again, it's the person who's going to be there for long enough to actually make a disciple that's going to make the difference. And that requires an intense amount of sacrifice.
Right.
And journeying with these young people as they do that is a joy and privilege.
Wow.
I remember talking to a couple that I think they wanted to be missionaries in like the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they kind of felt like doing this in Alaska and being uncomfortable was like a training ground
Yes.
for going to maybe like a closed country or somewhere, just as difficult. And sometimes going to the Middle East is really romanticized. Like, that's really going to the ends of the earth. But I'm telling you, like these missionaries, when I met them, I was like, these people are called. Like this is a whole different level of yes.
Yeah.
That people are giving to Jesus. And so how many teachers on the ground this fall? Do you have a guess?
Yeah. So this fall we'll have 35 Christian workers. Some of those are stay-at-home moms and doing some different things. But yeah, we'll have 35 mobilized missionaries as part of this program, 14 missionary kids, and somewhere between 12 to 15 that are going to be on their way into our training program this fall. And so it's really fun and just to be part of what the Lord is doing, because in the last 5 years, there have been more missionaries mobilized to the villages of Alaska than we have seen within the Assemblies of God anyways. You would have to go back if we figured it out one time, it was like 25 years.
Wow.
It took 25 years to mobilize 35 missionaries. And in the last 5, the Lord has mobilized 20 or 35 missionaries. And so the Lord is up to something.
Yes.
And I'm just so excited to get to be part of it and just be hanging on for dear life on this ride. So it's been awesome.
I thought even the story that for anyone who attends the banquet will hear, and maybe you're sharing on Sunday too, but Jamie's story of really you've started to see kind of would you say the first fruits of we are seeing kids that have been invested in these villages now come to college.
Yes.
Be on fire for Jesus and say, could I be one of these teachers?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's crazy is that what we found is every single one of our teachers during the first month have been told the same thing by students. And it's some rendition of the phrase, I don't need to listen to you. You'll be gone in a couple months anyways.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden next year rolls around and they're back. And the next year rolls around and they're back. And we've started referring to year 1 as the plowing year. Don't even expect fruit. Don't even expect a sprout. Don't even expect seed germination at this point, right? Like you're literally just plowing. Year 2 is planting. Still nothing, right? And then what we found is that by year 3, we're finally able to have like a soil of trust that has been built to actually start to see some actual spiritual growth. And Jamie's story was that. Jamie was a junior when Aaron and Alyssa, 2 of our teachers, got there. They were her basketball coach. Jamie stayed in school because of basketball, and they were her basketball coach the second year. And then once she graduated, they kind of became pseudo parents for her because Jamie came from a fantastically unhealthy home life and home environment. And so Jamie would show up there or out at their house just very often. And as that started to happen, they had the opportunity to not just tell Jamie about Jesus, but lead Jamie to Jesus, and then start to disciple Jamie. Jamie wanted to go to college, and now Jamie's going to college at UAF, is plugged in to our Chi Alpha, one of our Chi Alpha groups there, and is getting discipled. And recently, Jamie and I had a conversation as we were talking about this whole program to all of these other college students. And she came up to me and said, Steve, do you think I could be one of those teachers someday? And
did she know and realize that the two, like her two coaches and teachers were?
Oh, very much.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because I had told stories about them,
Okay.
you know. And I'd even pointed out Jamie in the crowd. I'm like, Jamie's here and she knows a lot of these people that are doing this. But yeah, that the fact that Jamie could see herself
Yes.
as someone who could do this for her own people. Honestly, like I can't describe to you how special of a moment that was, like how much of a gift that was to us, because that was literally, not only was that 14 years ago, the Lord saying, I want to use college ministry to impact every single corner of the state of Alaska, that word coming to fruition, but it was also a decade's worth of learning the culture in Alaska, understanding how do we help an Alaskan native see themselves as somebody who could reach their own people.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a tear-filled Holy Spirit encouragement moment for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna have one more question, but I know you've talked about just a big part of the need, yes, is a gospel witness, but even just the health of families that these kids are being raised in. And so what is just like a common maybe household dysfunction that people are being raised in there? Or things that would be like maybe viewed as common that we might shake us to our core?
Oh boy.
If you're allowed to share.
Yeah, I'll share a few. The degree of dysfunction in a
Maybe
lot
that's
of these
not the right
places.
word. You correct me.
It is. I think it's an okay word. The degree of dysfunction for essentially every institution in these places, whether it be the institution of education, local leadership, family. When I talk about it, it makes me cry because I just there's like a incredible injustice happening in our backyard, and the more layers you peel back, a lot of times the more sad it gets. We have the villages are home to some of the highest rates of domestic violence, substance abuse, suicide, depression, sexual abuse. I mean, all of these things are prevalent and present and very, unfortunately, just very normal. We've been doing ministry in Alaska for 11 years. And so far, we have yet to meet a young lady that grew up in one of these second flight villages that has not been sexually abused in some way.
So in all those years, you've never met someone that says this isn't a part of my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We assume a 100% rate when we're doing ministry in these places. And that has never been proven false, unfortunately. And so, but I share that, and I never like to stop at the doom and gloom because we serve a Jesus that can literally change everything.
Yeah.
And we have to continue to believe that Jesus is literally the only answer. And we tell our teachers all the time that, like, hey, be the best teacher you can be, but understand that you are part of a dysfunctional system that you're probably never going to fix, nor will it ever be fixed on this side of heaven, right? But what we can do is that we can introduce them to a person in Jesus Christ that can literally give them a new identity and set them on a completely different destiny and course in their life.
Yes.
And that is something that we know works every single time.
Exactly.
Like the gospel works every single time with every single person in every single circumstance, in every
Yes.
single situation. And so just being reminded of that just gives us hope to continue to move forward and plow on.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to get preachy there.
No,
No, it's
I
why
think
you're there.
It's so,
I mean, it's
yeah.
like,
And
it's why
even
you're
like
there.
what you said of like year one is a plowing ground. It's like, yeah. And when you talk about just the situation and circumstances, you're like, of course there is such a hardened ground or even a harden of hearts, probably out of protection and preservation. So yeah, I think that paints just really beautiful picture of the urgency and importance of what you're doing.
So I think you're really great.
Thanks, Josh. I think you're great.
And
Sometimes Josh will shift things where it's kind of like,
it's just kind of funny.
kind of like, what is it, poetry for Neanderthals?
I don't know if you ever played that game.
We should play with you.
It's a pretty good time. What I was going to say was, like, I think you're pretty great. The stuff that you're doing now is amazing. I think people can listen to it and be in awe of it, but almost separate themselves from like, that's not my life. No, that can't be me. And I wanted to take a second and talk about the Steve I met, who knew a little bit about faith, loved baseball.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think like had a life plan that revolved around architecture.
100%.
And, all the pieces were lined up
Yeah.
for, a really great, comfortable experience.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know where the shift like started to take place in you. I know you had a fantastic Connect group leader. It was not me. I'm not giving myself praise, but you had a great Connect group leader. And you got involved in our college ministry at NDSU. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I've been talking to our church about like the seed of potential that God has in your life. And this last week, I talked to them about the conditions of the soil around you for that seed to really produce something. And we're now sitting 17, 20 years removed from what really was the most transformational season of our peer group, like most of our lives.
Yeah.
And so much of it had to do with like, we were good seed, but also we found ourselves in a position where the conditions of the soil were really good for growth. And that led you to where you are today. It led me to where I am today. We have other friends who are leading churches or who are leaders in their churches or making a difference, in places around the world and in college students' lives and just all these different things. And so I would just love to hear your perspective on that a little bit. Like, what was it about the conditions of the soil that you stepped into in what God was doing among us as a group of friends that changed your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I would...
In just one or two sentences.
One or two sentences? Oh, goodness. I would say spiritual hunger, an environment of spiritual hunger. Do I need... I'm trying to sum this up into two sentences.
No, he was kidding. That was the Shaldal sarcasm.
I asked you a very complex question, but I would love for you to just
I think even expounding for people who maybe don't understand, like when you say spiritual hunger, like what did that look like practically?
Totally. Totally. I had never, when I walked into our college ministry group at North Dakota State, I had never experienced a room of people my age who are as spiritually hungry for the things of the Lord as what those people were. And it was like, they wanted to have, prayer nights just as often as they wanted to have game nights, and the presence of the Lord was the greatest form of entertainment that any of us could think of, and I'd never experienced anything like that. And so there was this hunger for that. And there was this like leaning in, and there was this culture really that I just stepped into that was like, we want the real thing and we're not going to settle for anything less than that. So I think that was probably the first thing that I can think of. But then the second thing was responsibility. And, I really believe that responsibility, kingdom responsibility, is the greatest fertilizer for growth. And we just got to be part of a really unique move of God And at the time, there was one person on staff full time, and then he had a part-time, it was Pastor Brad, and Brad had a part-time guy with him named Tony, and that was it. And I think that like we as students, we looked around, we saw what the Lord was doing, and we're like, well, if we don't step up and steward this, who's going to? And it was really out of like, I don't know, at times necessity and almost borderline like panic. Like, man, these people need to be taken care of and we need to keep moving this thing forward. And that responsibility, I think, is what allowed me to like realize that like, whoa, the Lord can actually do more with a simple yes than what I ever thought he could. Yeah.
I think about, for me, some of the motivating like pictures in my mind were, I remember somebody telling a story about like these 6 guys. I can't even remember if it was like, there was a group called like the Haystack 5, and they would go on. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
Like these guys that started praying like in a haystack during a storm or something like that, but then they became
the Haystack Revival. Yeah.
Yes, and they began this culture of kind of like prayer and seeking God's presence, and then they became major leaders in like the Christian movement after that. And I remember somebody telling a story, and I might be mixing stories, but Drew Meyer would always tell me these great stories of heroes of the faith, and he's like, they carried such an authority in God's presence that they would walk in the room and people would just sense that something was different. And I think we all had like an equal hunger to know God in that way. Yeah. And to walk in the things of God in that way. But then we also were just stupid and like did funny, crazy game nights. And so I think I want to peel back. It wasn't just like we were these devout, like very like tense followers of Jesus, who followed all the rules. I'm glad
that you said that. Yeah.
But we were also just college students who like, we didn't get in trouble, and like we were living like moral lives and calling each other to live morally, but we also just had a ton of fun. Like I look back on that season of my life and it was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
And I just think of my wedding.
Yeah.
It was my wedding.
How was your wedding?
You just came. Our wedding.
I mean, it's a little that
way. Yeah. Every wedding's kind of like that.
Where we just had some people where we had a dry wedding, and some people were just like really skeptical of it in family units and things. And I think that speaks to it because so many of your college friends were there, and then our friends and friend group. And I'll never forget a family member being like, I've never seen a dance floor this packed the whole time and this crazy the whole time. Yeah. Where I think for that person, it was this like moment of like, you can live like a pure and moral life for Jesus. And it doesn't mean that you don't have any fun. And it doesn't mean that you can't, this or that. But that's just what it makes me think of.
Right.
Whereas some people, that's so foreign to know.
Yeah. It's just, to me, it's like the power of like church and Christian community is so much what you make it. Like, and I think there's such a mentality of like, do, just do this thing, do that thing. But we, like in that season of life, there was such a culture of just being the body of Christ. And we were constantly like on the prowl for people who didn't know Jesus and inviting them into our homes. And you and I had a really funny first interaction the first time you came over to our house. I'm not even going to tell the story on the podcast because it probably shouldn't be recorded.
Is it so embarrassing?
Yeah. We probably don't want that one on the internet.
Let's just say that I broke the ice with Steve really fast in like just an awkward comment that I made.
Well, we'll talk about it. We always joke about we need a podcast that's like called After the Pod, because once we stop recording, it's like that's actually a really kind of juicy conversation.
The very highly unlikely.
Yes, very, very highly unlikely.
Very highly unlikely. I like that.
Well, no, I think you brought up a good point with that. There was, and I think this was one of the things that as I look back on that season, and I so respect and admire the leadership of Brad Lewis in that he had all of these crazy, at times out of control people in his ministry. And he gave us way more latitude than what he probably should have to like make decisions, have fun, like be crazy. And I had several conversations with Brad where, he'd pull me to the side and be like, Steve, that wasn't your best work, Or like, we're never going to do that again. It's like, oh, shoot. Right.
Yeah.
But like, even in that, like he allowed like failure to be a teacher. And I'm just like so thankful for that, because I never felt restricted. And I think that freedom and that autonomy allowed me to not just have freedom to dream, but have freedom to like try stuff, make mistakes, and just keep like running forward in ministry.
Right. But so much of it was a result of he multiplied his life
Yes.
in a few really good people, which allowed him to kind of like let them run.
Yeah.
And then he never took his eyes off the prize of like, yeah, we can do all this other stuff. I'm glad you guys are doing, you know, the fun things that you're doing. But like at the end of the day, we win souls.
Yeah.
We fill small groups. We raise up small group leaders, and everybody leads with somebody else. Like there was just this play of like, this is how we develop people. And it just kept producing itself. And he never got distracted or lost sight of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it's such a powerful lesson in like discipleship for me even today.
Yeah. Brad would say, vividly remember him saying, Steve, if you're going to play. And if you're going to pray. And it was like, it's like, you don't have to mix the two. And it was this like call to say like, hey, if you're going to go have fun, like have the most fun you can have. But like when it's time to get down to like kingdom business, we don't need to mix those two. We don't need to entertain people. Like it was this culture that like the presence of God is far more entertaining than anything else we could ever provide anybody. And I don't know, it was just but there was, like I said, there was also freedom to just be yourself, be goofy and have fun. And knowing that was actually a tool for kingdom building too, because it was part of building community, and it was part of creating those inroads of trust in which when it came time to pray, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do this with these people. So,
Right.
I think it's also a lesson because obviously it's a different season of life, you know, like we have so many more cares and burdens today in a way than we did then, you know? And I mean like good things like jobs and
dependent humans.
Dependent humans and people that were leading. And
I think those are called children.
and little disciples running
Little
around.
disciples that depend on you. That we
But
love.
it does, I don't know, maybe there's a theology here, but of just God using young people.
Yeah.
Of like even the young disciples he called, you know, Mary and like just the availability of the next generation. And that's why I love what you're doing with college students, you know, like asking them to make a decision. And I know it's broader than college students, but it's college students, and they're at a point in their life where they have the ability to choose, you know, what they're going to live for and whether they want to make a difference. And I just think that's super potent. Even stuff we're trying to do with like next generation here at Evangel. I think if we lose that, we risk losing something really, really, really important, you know, and even directional in the life of the church. And it's just a beautiful season.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think often when I was going to church and or like growing up in these environments and a missionary would come through town, you are seeing like the version of that person that has 20 to 25, sometimes 35, 45 years of like sanctification and Holy Spirit work done on that person's life. And all of them have an origin story. And this is part of our origin story. Right. And it was a season that was messy. It was a season that was hard at times. We made mistakes, but it was a season of like growth and stretching ourselves. And I don't know, I look back at myself in that season. I look back at some of the things that were in my heart, and it was like, oh, that's ugly. But like the Lord in time took care of those things, and he's still taking care of a ton of that stuff. And so I think for people listening, I think something I'd just encourage them in would be understand that, like, I always tell people, so often we think about, where does God want me in the next 5 years? And I think what was beautiful about that season was it was like, I think we were all just literally living for the 5-minute obedient yeses. And after adding up 5 minutes of yeses over the course of many 5-minute yeses, you end up stepping into a 5-year plan that is far better than anything you could have ever asked or imagined or come up with yourself.
Right.
And that's how I look back at my time at NDSU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would also qualify it by saying not just like, do we have origins just like anybody else, but also I think of, it's like Mother Teresa, not comparing us to Mother Teresa, but I remember like her passing away and them getting a hold of her journals and seeing the struggle that went along with like the incredible fruitfulness of her life.
Right.
And I'm like, you and I are very open with each other about also being like wounded healers, like wounded warriors, you know, even in our calling. And when you're talking about Alaska, you know, and when I'm casting vision for Evangel, we come across confident and called and anointed and full of faith.
Yeah.
And there is this other side to, it's like somebody who's called to a village in Alaska. You're like, yeah, I'm going, we're doing this. And then you're there and it's month 3, day 13. And you're kind of looking at yourself in the mirror going, am I the right person?
Yeah.
Like, do I have what it takes? And I think we all have those moments of like,
Right. So true.
God, do you want to choose someone else?
Oh, 100%.
You know?
I mean, I think back, again, just going off the college season, I think back like, okay, now in Alaska, we're running this multifaceted missions organization that's sending people all over the place. Well, like all of that started, I went on a short-term missions trip to Alaska. I came back, sat in Brad's office, and I said, Brad, we got to go on short-term missions trips. And he goes, well, Steve, I honestly don't think I have time in my schedule to plan a short-term missions trip, which he didn't, right? And I said, well, then I'll lead it. And Brad's only direction for me, I had no idea how to do this. He said, he looked at me, he shrugs and he goes, well, Steve, just make sure you have insurance. And I was like, I didn't even know how to find missions insurance. Right. And this is back before like Google was really efficient at giving you answers. And there was no YouTube
There was
video.
no AI.
There
was no chat GPT.
That's right. That's right.
And if you could go back, you don't even want to know like how dysfunctional that whole process was. I mean, it's embarrassing. But like that, I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that was the start of it. It was just like fumbling in the dark, trying to figure out. And that first year, I brought 4 people back to Alaska with me.
Yeah.
And, you know, now today there's last year we had 450 people in Alaska on short-term missions trips.
How many reach trips or missions trips?
There's 30 last year. Wow. Yeah. And so,
you guys, that is just like the seed of obedience. Like, God, I don't know how, but I will. And then he takes that and he just multiplies it, you know?
Yeah. And even this year, like there was moments, like I hope all of our missions teams saw like a nicely organized team, you know? But if you like pulled back the curtain, you'd be like, wow, this thing is chaos, right? This is how you guys function. But like, it's like true. Like, it's just, I think that the Lord is constantly pushing us to the edge of where we know that we cannot do what he's called us to do on our own. And I have come to the determination after now 17 years, 18 years of following Jesus, that I will never not feel inadequate.
Wow.
And the minute I do is the minute I have to like be seriously alarmed that I've probably stepped in or stepped out of the will of God.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is beautiful.
Well, I think even just what you shared, it made me think of how sometimes I feel like the next generation's so focused on like vision and like what's God's like plan for me and what I'm going to do. And I think if you would have started off like, oh, I have this vision of 400 people going to Alaska and 30 teams, you know, the yes to the first 4 people would have been like, oh, you know. I mean, so I think vision sometimes is good, but like it's more about the yes and obedience than like, okay, what's the end outcome or like where can I get? And it cuts you off at the knees, you know, or minimizes what God's asking you to do, which that matters more.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's such a good thought. I immediately thought of Peter in the Bible. If he had known early on, like what his life would become, it probably wouldn't have even been good for him.
Yes.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine what he would have said?
Yeah.
And it's probably true for all of us
That's
that
so
we
true.
either wouldn't be able to handle it or we'd get an ego or,
Yeah.
it's better step by step.
Oh, yeah.
I love that, what you said. I don't know if I'll ever not feel inadequate.
Yeah.
It's like, somehow you stepped into too big of shoes and then the shoes just keep growing.
Yeah, exactly.
Feet are big enough.
Exactly.
But then you have to depend on the Lord. That's beautiful.
Cool. Well, we're grateful for you.
Well, thanks for letting me hang out with you guys today. And thanks for stories about your dog.
Yeah.
I actually never heard those before. Those are very sad.
It's a real pain.
Oh, you guys didn't, you slept on a boat together,
Yeah,
this
that's
summer.
true. That's
Get
true.
to that.
I don't really like seafood, so I've been telling Steve that I have to go to food counseling so that I can spend more time in Alaska. But maybe I also need to go to.
You got to convince him
counseling.
that he needs work on his his palate.
I keep offering. Well, I want to go on this fishing trip with him, and
Yeah.
I don't really eat fish. So
it's 100%
either he has to smuggle
mental.
some cheeseburgers in and not tell anybody,
No, we'll smuggle cheeseburger. It'll be a both end.
Let's
thing.
not
It'll be a both end
enable
thing.
here. Let's not enable.
I ate
No, we're not
halibut
enablement.
when we were in Alaska.
It's true.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
just mental for him.
yeah. No, I was really proud of you.
I think it was halibut in chicken sauce. Or, no, I'm just kidding.
It's
Breaded
It's so funny
with
because
ketchup.
if you're listening, and you've never had halibut before. It's like vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you
like,
serious?
Oh well, it's like it would be like it tastes like whatever you put on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So there's like no fishy flavor at all to it whatsoever. And so if you put butter on it, it tastes like butter. If
The
you put
texture is a
garlic
little
on it-
fishy, though.
And then the texture, the
goodness.
texture is a little fishy, which is why I was really proud of you.
I did.
Yeah.
It
good
was
job.
actually good.
It was good.
Okay. I feel like at the end, can we just tell one bear story?
Yes, it has to be 3 minutes long
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
because
Okay.
we got to go to a banquet.
Okay.
Like,
It's very
what's that?
serious.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm thinking like the one you told in the car yesterday about
I mean,
something that's now in
the
your
one.
basement.
The one.
Okay. Oh yeah. So,
Can you tell that one?
yeah. Can I? Well, the orca story what led into that.
Well, what happened after the orca?
Okay. Yeah. So there was the orca story, and then after the orca story.
So if
Is
you
that the
haven't
one
heard
you're
the
talking
orca
about?
story, I think that's on the last one that Steve was
There
on.
you go.
Yeah, go
So
back.
you go
Yeah.
back and listen to that one.
This might all be on the last one, but
I think it might be.
That's all right.
So we went out bear hunting, and there was you have this on Prince of Wales Island in the spring. The deer will drop fawns. They'll have their fawns, and the fawns are really easy meal for the bears. And so what we do is we bring a fawn call with us, and we blow the fawn call. It sounds like a squeaking fawn. And so if the bears hear that, they think easy meal. So we blew the fawn call, and it was like something from a Jurassic Park film. The bushes and trees on the other side of this pond like start moving, and out from the woods pops this giant bear. And usually they like come in kind of cautiously into the call, like sniffing. No, this guy was hungry. He like literally just came sprinting out of the woods straight towards us. He closed 450 yards to about 250 yards in a matter of seconds. And I couldn't get a shot where we were, so we had to sprint towards him. So me and my buddy Paul are sprinting towards the bear while the bear is sprinting towards us. As we're getting a better eye on the bear, we realize that this bear is maybe the biggest bear we'd ever seen in our lives.
Black bear
A black
specifically.
bear, yeah. And so we're running this way. I get braced against the tree. The bear continues to run. He gets to about 70 yards away. Stops dead in his tracks, realizes something's up. So he stands up on his hind legs. And when he stands up on his hind legs, I'm like, yeah, this is a giant bear. And he sticks his nose in the air like this and is trying to smell us. And I'm like, okay, I'm not letting this thing, because he's in tall grass. So if he stands back down, I might not have a shot. So I'm like, I'm going to take a shot. So boom, shoot the bear while he's standing up, and he falls over, and we hear a twig snap behind us, and we turn around, and there's another bear 10 yards away. And my buddy, all happened so fast. My buddy Paul didn't have a gun with him. So I just threw him a gun. I threw my gun. I'm like, Paul, shoot him. And so he
Not in
grabs,
hunter safety,
He
chucking
grabs,
guns.
yeah. There wasn't one chambered.
It's Alaska people.
He chambers the round, points at him, and this bear, we were looking for trophy bears, and this bear was a little too small. And so he's like, Steve, I don't know what to do. He's too small to shoot. I'm like, well, we got to get rid of him. So I start picking up rocks. We start throwing rocks at him. We're grabbing twigs, throwing twigs at him. This bear is still like staring at us. Like, I still think you're something I want to eat. Right. And so, and then I look back out of the corner of my eye, I see like black stuff moving. And I'm like, oh, my bear's getting back up. So I yell at Paul, I'm like, Paul, my bear's getting up. So he throws me the gun. I catch the gun. I shoot my bear one more time while also like looking over the corner of my eye. We're still throwing rocks at this bear. Finally, this bear walks away and we go up to my bear, and it is a bear that's squared out at 7'2",
Which for a black bear is
and a pretty incredible trophy.
Monster.
Yeah,
It's huge.
and a monster. So that's probably my favorite bear story.
Which I learned yesterday. Did you say that an Alaskan resident can shoot 5 bears a year, or do you have to have a tag?
Depending on where you're at, yeah, you have to, but you just print your tags off on the internet.
Really?
They're free.
I just didn't realize
it's
that
written
bear
into
hunting-
the Alaskan Constitution that hunting is a right of an Alaskan resident. So pretty cool.
So we're there for Jesus, also for the
Listen,
hunting.
There are definite challenges to being a missionary in Alaska, but I feel like I kind of like won the kingdom lottery by getting called there.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, Jesus.
It is amazing.
Oh my goodness. And that's just one of the probably many stories
Many
that we could tell.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started an adventure journal a couple
love
of years ago.
that.
So every time we go on an adventure, I write like 1,500 words about all the details of it, and so someday I'll give that to my grandkids. They might read it, they might not. I don't know. But
That's cool.
You're gonna have your own
campfire stories.
Campfire
Meat
stories
eater
you can
campfire
write.
stories.
yeah,
awesome.
my ministry partner Paul Burkhart, we've been in more near-death situations together than any two humans ever should. But
I always think that. I'm like, Steve, if you get killed up there, I'm gonna be so ticked at you, man.
Well, by the time I hit my 70s or 80s, if I go on a mountain, I'll be okay with that. I think.
That'll probably be it. Yeah. Gosh. All right. Now we've turned a real corner.
We maybe have to edit that part out.
Yeah.
So how does Aaron feel about that?
All right. Help us,
Oh,
Jenaye.
man. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
If you think someone would enjoy this episode, you can share it with them, rate and subscribe so you know when new episodes come. But until the next episode, we'll see you then.